Hi, I'm Mesha with As Long as You're Breathing. This is going to be a meditation to help manage fear. But first, I want to address some things that I think are, disrespectful. I understand the phrase that fear is an illusion. But for those people who are feeling fear, when they hear that, that's a judgment that's being placed on them. Not all fear is an illusion. There are rational fears. If someone is trying to hurt you, the fear you feel is legitimate. It is rational. It is rational to be afraid if there's someone right there trying to hurt you. There are primal fears as well. Fears that are simply programmed in us because they're there to protect us, and they're legitimate. Be afraid of stepping off the edge of a cliff. You'll fall and get hurt. That is primal. That is in us. We know that, and it is rational. So the fears that are an illusion are irrational fears. Those are the ones that I understand the phrase for. But first, I wanted to acknowledge that there are rational fears. But regardless of whether the fear you're feeling is rational or primal or irrational, you feel what you feel. And we have to deal with what we feel. So the way we're going to do this meditation is, first and foremost, we're going to do some breathing. The best way to slow everything down is with the breath. I love Elizabeth Kipp's phrase that she has in her book on chronic pain. You're born on an inhale, we die on an exhale. It's all in the breath. Breath is our fuel. Whenever we need to calm down for any reason, if we will simply stop, we don't have to know fancy breathing techniques, although I could show you some. We don't have to know any of those. If we would just stop and breathe in and breathe out. You don't even have to have any particular thoughts in mind when you do it. Just oxygenating the body will slow everything down. The fact that you're focusing on the breath and bringing pure, clean oxygen in will slow everything down. Now, if you add into that you're breathing in pure, clean energy and exhaling out energy that's not serving you, that enhances that. And if you are of the mindset that you can breathe in pure white light, which is unconditional love, and exhale the darkness or the energies that are not serving out, well, that'll calm you even more. You see, the body gets into fight, flight, or freeze mode. We used to just call it fight or flight. So I have to slow down and say it now because it's 3 F's instead of 2. But fight, flight, and freeze mode is really what explains many illnesses that people have, including the one that I've lived with my entire life. I was pretty much born in fight, flight, or freeze mode. That part of me that regulates that is a knob that was just turned up. I'm on sensory overload all the time. I'm quite empathic. I was born with some primal fear and lived in some rational fear. And therefore, irrational fears easily took hold because I was feeling way too much. My emotions were overloaded. I was on sensory overload and had 2 types of fear. One we're born with innately to protect us. Others were quite rational. And so the irrational ones, yes, they came. But we cannot judge ourselves for having irrational fears. They are our level of consciousness at the time. We cannot judge ourselves for our level of consciousness at the time. But what we can do is seek increased awareness, because there is no one who is ever going to be totally self-aware. that is something that we need to acknowledge and understand. We should always be bettering ourselves. And as we increase our awareness or awaken to higher levels of consciousness, which is what being consciously awakened is, or ascending, as you learn to ascend up the vibrational frequency scale and stay there because you're accessing multidimensional aspects of self. As we learn to do those things, we can learn to, even if that knob is truly on, wide open, because we were physiologically born that way, we can learn to dial that knob back down. So whether we're in a rationally induced fear state, someone is truly trying to hurt us, breathing in, breathing out, controlling the breathing will help calm us down so we can handle the situation. Whether it's primal fear, oh my God, there's a lion and it's right here and lions hurt people, beautiful as they are. That's not a good situation. That is a primal fear and quite rational. Slowing down your breathing will help you once you get away from the lion. But for irrational fears, the fear that people like to say is an illusion, this is the way to step out of that space. If we look at it as energy, fear is simply a lower vibration that we have stepped into or fallen into or been pushed into or tripped into or whatever. Still, our vibration has gone down. So the thing we need to do is immediately recognize that the goal is to raise our vibration back up. So we want to calm that using the breath and relaxation. But that's a temporary fix. Now, if we want to eradicate or eliminate that fear, we can. The next thing we have to do is identify what has caused the fear. Now, that does not mean you have to relive whatever trauma it was. Now, some people may need to. You may need to journal it all out or say it all to someone. You may need to purge it that way. But once you've purged it, let it go. Because that is an energy that you don't want to bring back by saying it out loud or putting yourself through it over and over and over and over. That's verbally ruminating instead of just ruminating in your head. So you don't want to do that. But if you need to say it all for the first time, if you need to get it all out, okay, do that. But then be done with that. But if you can identify what it is without going through all of that, that's even better. If you can simply say, I lived in an environment at home that was unsafe, and it caused me to be a fearful person, irrationally so, because I'm not in that environment now. If you can just say that much and identify that and say, I'm letting that go. I'm leaving that in my past. That was my old story. Or whatever your old story for that fear was. If you can do just that, that's even better. The more energy you put into what the fear was, that's just more of your energy it's getting now. But if you do need to say it all and get it all out, that is perfectly fine too. But don't keep revisiting it. All right. Now, if you want to teach on it later to help other people, the same thing holds true. Say as little about it as possible, like I just did. I was raised in an environment, and this is how I released that. Go straight to what the healing was. The reason we do that is the healing or the releasing is what we want to ground. Because just because we've released it doesn't mean we won't ever get triggered again with that fear or fear in general. But when we've released something, what we do then is we have what we want to replace that with, which is our truth now. Now, this meditation is going to be very general, but it's going to leave a space for you to envision your own personal truth that fits your fear that you're dealing with. I'm not going to address exactly what it is because I want this meditation to work for everyone, but I'm going to leave space for you to do that. You have to know what it is that you want to replace that with, because when we leave a void, something's going to fill it. And if all we're doing is taking out one fear, a good chance is another fear is going to fill it. We have to visualize what we want to replace it with, what our truth is. And then once we've done that, we always want to seal everything with unconditional love. And then we want to ground that. So when we get triggered again, nope, I know what this is. And I've released it. And I have gone here. And you stop, you breathe, you calm yourself down, and you go back to that place that you grounded to. And sometimes it doesn't take long at all before you can do that without even having to really stop and think about it. Sometimes that happens immediately, and you're free of it forever, and you get triggered and you're like, oh, I know what that is. Got it. And you're done. Sometimes it takes a little more effort than that. But regardless, it works anyway. So that is what we're going to do. Now, we're also going to use some light frequencies to help us. Now, if you simply believe in it's all energy, then the spectrum in the rainbow that is between the earth and the sky, that is like your blues and purples, okay? So blue light, the energy of blue light transmutes negative emotions. It takes emotions that are lower vibrational, anything that is not on the high side. And by positive and negative, we can look at it that way. Negatives are below zero, positives are above zero. Some people don't like the term negative emotions. Well, let's look at it that way. Let's make it a number. Zero's here, below zero is negative, above positive, okay? So blue light transmutes negative or lower emotions and turns them into positive energy. Violet light does the same thing, but violet light transmutes everything, health issues, emotional issues, anything. It's associated with the violet flame of Saint Germain, if you believe that. And the blue light is associated with Christ light. Although there are other colors associated with Christ light, blue light is as well. So I was taught, it was channeled to me by my angel guides, to do all types of light healing using not just white light, unconditional love, but to also use the blue light and the violet flame, and then to ground it all with gold white light, which is wisdom and unconditional love. So if you want to think of it just in terms of the energy spectrum of light, and that's why we're using those colors, that is perfectly acceptable. But if you want to think of it from the standpoint of energy is conscious and feeling because it is measured by emotion, and that we have these other dimensions that are energetically obviously real, and we just can't see them because they're vibrating at a different frequency, but these other dimensional beings in these other dimensions wish to help us and guide us. And they include Saint Germain, the angels. If you subscribe to that belief system, then this works for you too. Regardless, we're using light to transmute that lower vibrational energy of fear, regardless of what the fear is, rational, primal, or irrational. Then we are replacing it with what we choose to, which is going to be our truth now, where we are now, where we want our story to be, our lives, our story. We write it our way. Our heart space knows what that way is. So follow your intuition. Your intuition is going to say, we're not supposed to be in fear. We're here to be happy, healthy, whole, and complete. So tap into that. Okay, what is our happy, healthy, whole, and complete? Find that truth in you. ground that truth, visualize it, then we're going to ground it. And that is what you will come back to if you get triggered. You will use the breath to come back to that every time. And before long, you'll be doing it so automatically. It'll just be so easy, truly. This is how we quantum leap something like fear. But it does take, it's not magical. It does take applying what we're talking about. It does take actually doing it. It does take standing in your energy now, knowing who you are and keeping your energy there. Okay, I just recognized my energy went back to an old truth. No, I'm redirecting it. I'm going to do the breathing, going to come back to my thought that I'm grounded, that's my truth. You have to actually use it. It's not Samantha wiggling her nose and saying, okay, we released fear, it's gone. No. This takes action upon our parts. So it is all quite reasonable and logical. I don't dislike the term woo. Matter of fact, I call myself a woo-wooist. I think it's kind of a cute term, to be honest, and I'm good with it. But it's not all woo-woo. It's not all hokum. And I'm channeling Sheldon. It's not all hokum. It's real. It is based upon the science of calming the body down and of replacing bad programming, quantum physics, using energy rays, light rays, different types of energy that have different effects, quantum physics. It's quite scientific. When we marry science and reality of energy management, then we get true healing. When we recognize the energetic aspects of what's going on here, what truth is, and that we are energetically stuck in things that are not true, and we remove that energetic hold, then we can truly heal from things. So, with all of that said, we're going to do our meditation now to help us, once and for all, overcome fear of all types, rational, primal, or irrational, because it doesn't matter why you have fear. What matters is you do, and we want that to be released.